Hey everybody, my name is Rydo, and in a couple of minutes we're going to start Broken Sword 3, The Sleeping Dragon. But there's a lot of options and settings we have to cover first. To begin with, we have some under the background materials. The synopsis of Broken Sword 1, which is a lot of dialogue. Ironically, the three pictures right now on this screen are actually images from Broken Sword 3, Broken Sword 2, sorry. So they're in the wrong place. And then you have the synopsis of Broken Sword 2, and all of these pictures are accurate. But man, is that a lot of text when you could have just played the game in the remastered versions, which aren't the greatest remasters ever. I don't think. I think they kind of hurt the game as they change things around. Uh, if you can find the originals and get them to play, that would probably be better. Then you also get three new bits of information: geomantic energy, which is the idea of energy in the air. Basically, you don't really need to read four lines of text to figure that out. The Vonic manuscript is some kind of manuscript of some sort. We really hope the game would explain that. And then the Templars, well, if you've played the first game, then you know the Knights Templar well enough because they were the main bad guys. So, do we really need all of this background? So, you kind of have to ask yourself, why is there so much background here? Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. Broken Sword 3 was created in an attempt to gain a new audience in a very specific way. And that way is it goes from 2D hand drawn pixel art animations to a 3D environment with 3D characters. And boy, in 2017, does it not look good. Uh, it is very much a perfect example of if you go 3D with the technology back then, you're not going to have the textures for it to work and look good. However, the engine still does do as high as 1080p at least on 32-bit colors. It goes actually rather lower though because it will also allow 16-bit colors if you scroll all the way down or maybe all the way up. It was asking me 16-bit colors before, and it's now decided not to offer those anymore. Uh, so a lot of things are going to be stretched out. You can probably already see the images at the bottom of the screen, the little symbols. One of which is the symbol of Morrowind, or later used for the symbol of Morrowind. Perhaps Morrowind hadn't come out by the time this game came out. Uh, yeah, I bet this predates it. We want the subtitles on. That setting does not seem to save. We're gonna have all the audio levels down to this level, which is the right level for me. And then we need to talk about the controllers. So, I'm using an Xbox 360 controller, and this game was designed to be sold on, I think, the original Xbox, not even the 360. It's so old. And so you have to come over here and set the movement settings to Xbox 360. And that will have the characters move like that. But then you need to also remap every single button. And it just says button 9 and button 4. It doesn't even have the pictures of the buttons. But the main thing I would say to start with is action map down should be A. So you'd hit A here and then hit A, and then it will say button 0. Action map left should be X. Action map right should be 1. And what this is in the lower right corner of the game, there will be 4 actions that look very much like they're in the order of the controller buttons, and so that's what you need for that action map. Up should be Y. Then for inventory, I set that just as the back button on the controller, and the pause, I set that as the start button. The creep I set as the left stick down. So if you want to creep around slowly, you press your left stick down to click that button. The previous object I have as the right bump, and the next object previous object is left bump, next object is right bump. Run I have as the right stick down. And sadly, you can't use the triggers, and you can't use the D-pad in this game. And you're going to have to program it all that way, because that is not what the defaults are. By default, you have to use the keyboard, and it's a mess to try to do that. You could probably play the whole game with the keyboard, but it's not designed to be played that way. So much so that we're still not seeing the icons. It still says X, escape for back, enter for select. I haven't been doing that. I've been pressing Y to go back and A to go forward on the Xbox 360 controller, so it doesn't even line up. And so that's all we need to know about the setup, and that did take longer than even average for me. There's always a lot of setup at the beginning of a series. Sorry about that. One thing I want you to focus on as we go into the cutscenes. We'll see a lady, and I want you to make very close note. You just see her back half. You see that she's in tight pants and a short top, a midriff top that is pretty tight too. And in a couple scenes from that point, she pulls out an object that somewhere she gets this object, and I don't want to spoil too much, that is so big there's literally no way it was in her pockets or anywhere else. So it just kind of appears, and it's a pretty obvious object people would notice, and the person in the room doesn't seem to notice. It's kind of laughable. So this isn't the intro, this is just a demo. We might as well look at this demo. This actually looks a lot worse than the game itself does. This is very, very blocky. It's not untypical, though, for games to have a video thing. That gun is the object, by the way, so spoiler. Spoiled you a little bit. It doesn't matter. It's just in the intro sequence. And that gun that was as big as her head. Look at it. Look how big that is. And look what she's wearing. But yeah, it's not untypical for games to have a more compressed version of a trailer that looks a lot worse than the actual game when it runs an engine, just to make sure that the trailer always runs. Although nowadays with Windows 10, old games are starting to have trouble even playing the video parts, so it might be better to keep everything in engine. Let's begin the game, though. Nicole and George are going to look and sound pretty different. I think it's new voice actors and definitely look different. This is a kind of long intro too. See, that looks a lot better, but you can see the number of polygons to animate his head are very small.
My lord,
or the arms.
It has begun. The power is already building. Are you ready for your task?
We shall not fail you, my lord.
The price of failure is Armageddon. God go with you.
So, it's introducing this broken sword symbol that we haven't seen before. And this, at the time, was top-of-the-line 3D graphics. It's just this game's so old, it doesn't hold up at all. Sorry if it's getting loud. The sound effects don't control this part, which is pretty common for cutscenes to have their own volume.
You got a girlfriend, George?
Nah, not really.
Well, what does that mean?
Oh, there was a girl in Paris, but it didn't work out.
Oh, way to go, mate. I've heard about those French babes. I think she'd be interested in a good-looking Aussie bushman, eh?
Only if it helped her career.
Weather like this, the old crate flies herself.
How about weather like that?
Lucky we got two. Just another couple of seconds and we'll be laughing. You better strap yourself in, George.
Meanwhile, as Paris waits to yet another clear, hot day, in the south, the bizarre weather continues. Marseille, 20 days of rain. Bordeaux, 30. And across the world, from Beijing to New York, there are reports of earth tremors, floods, typhoons.
Here you have the insulting
is it?
nerd
Don't
stereotype.
oublier, it's Nico Collard.
Look at the pants and the shirt she's wearing.
You're early.
You said it was urgent?
We don't have much time. The power sources are building to a peak. It's all in
Her
the
hands
manuscript.
are
Look,
empty right now.
I decoded it.
You're seeing the
No
front
one's
of
ever
her.
done that. They paid me serious money. But the Earth, we're all in danger. Now they want to kill me because I know too much.
Where did the gun come from? Literally. Like, it comes out of nowhere. Unless it was taped to her head and she was wearing a wig, and even then it wouldn't make sense.
In the jungle, and I was alive.
So actually,
I smelled smoke. I was gonna have to get out, and fast.
actually think they might have the original voice actors here. It's just a case of the remasters change the audio, and so we're in a little tutorial thing. And if you set up your buttons right, you have in that lower right hand corner a couple of options, and there's only one thing you can select right now, which is the seatbelt. So that's what you have. There's no mouse cursor in this game, which is a little odd. And so you have, if correctly set up, the B button to look at the seatbelt,
With the seatbelt fastened, I wasn't going anywhere.
and then the A button will interact with the seatbelt.
I unfastened the seatbelt carefully.
And that's, you're not going to get anywhere further in the game until you do that. And so left stick is moving things around,
An unopened bottle of beer was lying on the floor of the plane.
and you can look and you can pick up things
You never know when a
with the
beer's
same
gonna come in
buttons.
handy.
Anytime you get near anything, you have that indicator.
The door had taken a hammering. The impact from the landing had twisted the door frame.
And boy, do the graphics not stand up. It's amazing that it can do 1080p, but it's doing it with a very small inventory count. So to get to the inventory, if you set it to back, you have this, and then left bump and right bump to switch between these. And when we can look at George's notepad, meeting Chalamet at the lab in Congo, Australian pilot Harry Gillian willing to take me to the meeting. And we can interact with a bottle of beer and try to use it with other items. So that's how that's gonna work. And then you can just hit back. We have this crate,
A buckle and strap held the crate tightly to a metal frame.
so it's strapped down. Now what's interesting is the A button will just grab it and try to move it,
Strap held the crate tightly to a metal frame.
but the X button, if you properly configured it, will unstrap
The
it
buckle was
first.
quick release. I soon had the crate freed up.
And then we take this, and we still can't move it this direction because it's in front of, it's behind a pole. So we have to grab it from this direction. We can also look out this window.
We were balanced on top of the cliff. In a situation like this, smoke was a bad thing.
This
No
is
way of opening the window.
this is a typical beginning of a Broken Sword game. There's usually a fire. You're usually trapped somewhere. It's very much staying with the story.
Whoa, Harry! What's going on? Harry?
So I can't go forward or the plane falls.
Close. We weren't safe at all. We were balanced on the edge of a cliff, and now I was trapped in the rear half of the plane.
With the George and Nicole sort of romance, it never really actually happens. It's just kind of I guess I just subconsciously always feel like George and Nicole fall in love at each of these stories, but they're always kind of apart and broken up at the beginning of the game. It seems more like by the time we're done with all the Broken Sword games, which I think there's 5 of them, that's when they're really gonna fall in love and stay together and stop leaving each other. So the thing here is we have a window here, we have a fire extinguisher here, and we have Harry here. So we can look at him.
It was Harry Gilligan, the pilot, out cold.
And then we also have an inspect more thoroughly button.
Searching Harry turned up a handy bottle opener.
And so, well, we have a bottle opener.
I wasn't gonna do that.
Let's see, bottle opener. Use this with this. Come on. Alright, and so now that we have these 2 things, I need to use a different button to open the bottle. And then what? So I have an open bottle that...
The beer looked cheap, and it was warm. The beer looked cheap, and it was warm.
Gotta be careful. Not to
Harry!
repeat things.
Harry, wake up! Slapping him wasn't gonna work.
And that was slapping him? You were gently nudging him.
The glass was cracked.
So I'm looking at the glass right now. If I wanted to say select a different thing when there's 2 things next to me, that's the left and right bump again. It's an interesting mess of different
I
things.
wasn't strong enough to push it out.
They really just made an interface when they didn't honestly know what they were doing. So I can hit him with the fire extinguisher.
The fire extinguisher was empty. Shame.
Or I can put it back down.
Harry's fire extinguisher was in worse shape than Harry.
Or I can throw it through the window.
The glass was cracked. Here goes. Yes!
And so now what? Climb out the front?
Now there was enough room to climb out.
I guess that's what we're doing because I can't wake him up.
Whoa! Maybe not. I was going to need more weight at the back of the plane. But what?
Let's see. If I have this, and I use it with him, will it wake him up?
Oh, cheers, mate. Oh, came to a while back. Thought I'd grab 40 winks. Oh, don't get much chance in my line. Oh,
What were you doing flying us into that storm? You nearly got us killed.
oh, calm down, will you? The storm came from nowhere. Oh, I've never seen anything like it. Weird.
So how far is it to the landing strip?
Well, not far. We were right on top of it when the storm hit.
So, the talking animation's fine, but the general animations have problems.
You okay, Harry?
Sure, mate.
I've got to talk to this guy, and we've now got a different menu. So we'll just talk to him about all the dumb things, and then we'll talk to him about the important things.
I borrowed your bottle opener.
No sweat.
And then it exhausts it.
Do you drink this stuff all the time?
Tastes like angel sweat.
Gross. Also, you may have noticed that when he put the bottle away, he just hovered it over his satchel and it disappeared. So we can ask about the tilt or the plane in general. We'll start with the plane in general.
The plane's completely trashed.
Ah, no big deal.
How can you be so calm about it?
I won it in a card game.
Terrific.
Got a free tank of fuel, too. Which was lucky.
Why?
Well, we wouldn't have got here without it.
Wow.
Harry, we need more ballast at the back of the plane.
Okay, George, if you think it'll help.
So I don't really blame the animations as much as just the textures. And frankly, this is kind of all an Xbox original Xbox could handle
Harry,
as far as
just
graphics.
Don't move!
You bet.
No, not yet! Harry, stay there!
Why?
Whoa!
And you don't even see the ground there. This game is going to
That
introduce
was close.
a little bit
You know, could have been worse.
of
Yeah?
I might still have been in it.
Trying to cheer me up, Harry?
Ha! You know, you're not bad for a Yank.
That makes me feel a whole lot better.
We make a great team.
Hmm.
Oh, I could help you out. Here, with your work. Be your driver. Sort out the locals.
So it's gonna have a little bit of platforming, which is weird, considering this is originally a point-and-click adventure. They've just taken the pointing and the clicking out of it, and now it's a 3D manipulation adventure thing. Something maybe you would call the predecessor to like the Uncharted series. It put the jump
Harry,
up button in
like
a different
I told
place.
You, I'm only here to meet someone, then I'm out of here.
Oh, yeah, maybe I know the fella.
I doubt it. Guy called Cholmundely.
Never heard of him.
Exactly.
What's he do?
He's a scientist.
Well, what kind of a scientist?
What a weird name.
Lives in the jungle, says he's built a machine that can create limitless energy. I'm a patent lawyer. He wants me to write the patent. Make us all rich, okay? Capiche?
Oh, I see. A mad scientist.
Was he a lawyer before? I don't remember. Well,
Quit messing around, mate.
Guess next time I'll avoid the scenic route.
Yeah, well, when you've had your bit of fun, I'll see you at the top.
that I almost fell down, but I don't think there would have been really any penalty for falling down. Let's see. Yeah, you would have grabbed the ledge and climbed up. And they're putting climbing up as the up action and climbing down as the down action. And see, we have a little bit of wall clinging. All things you couldn't do in a point-and-click adventure game, but also things that may very well not work too well in the type of story they're telling. It's a little bit questionable, I guess. Depends on how much of the game is benefited by having scenes and sections like this versus how much of the game isn't. And see, I'm walking here looking for a button prompt, and I don't see it. And unless there's later on an introduction to switching between characters. Like, I'm not getting any kind of prompt. Let's see, I can crawl this way, and I can run this way. All functions you'd need in an adventure game. I suppose maybe I need to go back and talk to the guy. What you might do is consider this compared to something like Tomb Raider. Tomb Raider, as far as I understand it, was always a running, gunning platformer game. And I feel like they're trying to do something similar here and totally change the game. In a lot of ways, they're trying to totally change the game because they want something different. Well, they wanted more of an audience, and they thought that point-and-click adventures weren't the big deal anymore, and they weren't. They weren't wrong about that. Point-and-click adventure games are very much a niche now, where they were one of the major games that came out. I'm trying to see if maybe I could climb on a ledge somewhere. There must be some item. Let's see. Looking at this, that doesn't do anything. Okay, game. You've got me, game. You've got me confused. What am I supposed to do? Well, walking here. Pause. Return the game. Climb down here. Climb down here. Up here. I just don't think the game would want me to do this. Maybe there is a ledge that I'm nudging when I press forward. No, I just hit one button, nothing else. And creeping doesn't work. And this doesn't work. And if I use the controller for like WASD, all of that has been mapped away. I'm seriously gonna need to go look up the solution here. Like, there's nothing here. unless there's like
It was Harry's bottle opener.
I'm just walking against the wall like I would anything else. And there's doing that. I'm gonna have to. Ooh, there is another area. So kind of in the mentality of a adventure, there's some area walking around. But yeah, as I think about this compared to what the Tomb Raider reboot was, where it's running and jumping and mostly shooting arrows and guns at people, it gets away from the item manipulation and the story and the conversation. All of in the Tomb Raider reboot in particular, all of that was cutscenes as far as character interaction. As far as I remember, there's no real information that she ever got in any of that. However, compared more fairly to the original Tomb Raider games, that's what this feels like it's trying to move into, while still not having the shooting mechanic, and instead still holding on to that. And then a great comparison to also make right now is to compare this to what the Walking Dead Telltale game eventually became, because that's where Telltale as a company decided to go, is that they decided to get rid of all action, or almost all action, and it's actually rather similar to this. Actually, it just looks slightly better. Sadly, I can only say slightly, because Telltale's engine by today's standards is pretty old and needs to be updated to show better graphics. And then Telltale games have started to lower the amount of items. Right now we have a bottle opener and a beer, and we're probably going to hold on to that for the rest of the game, just as extra inventory trash to make it slightly more confusing. Now, in Broken Sword 1 and 2, there were sections where we were confused as far as what the logic was to actually...
For the last time, where is he?
I don't know. I don't know. For God's sake, I've told you everything I know.
For which I am deeply grateful. Nevertheless, it was always my intention to kill you. Goodbye, Mr. Cholmondeley.
How many times? It's not Cholmondeley, it's...
Well, I guess we don't need his...
It was a Sunday morning. I was 3 months behind.
Need to
on the
know
rent,
his name.
and my editor had given me another bum assignment. An interview with some hacker about the end of the world. Where had it all gone wrong? Was I never going to get that lucky break? What had happened to my glittering career in journalism? And then, everything changed.
And what a place to end the recording. By the way, as I'm overwriting that save file, it's worth mentioning that it doesn't seem like this game saves any of your settings until you start a new game. Probably not a problem for most people, but if you're trying to record like me, which, by the way, that in itself is not very easy since this game is so old, you're you need to start a new game and then save it and then set all your settings, and then it will at the very least get the resolution right. That's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.